It was like top 8, Mitch Garver's up to bat, bases are loaded, and they pan over to Pierce, my husband, who was like freaking out, and they were like visibly, like they could tell that he was like nervous, so they were like perfect shot. So he got more airtime than I did, which was kind of funny. So I saw that and I was thrown off. I was like, what is he doing on TV? This is nuts.
Hey everybody, and thank you for listening once again to the Kick Your Boots Up podcast. We're so excited to have this lovely lady here in studio, but before we tell you a little bit about her, if you don't recognize her already, don't forget to like, subscribe, share with your friends, tell us what you want to hear, comment. We want to hear it all. So without further ado, we're going to jump into this. And this is the digital and in-game host for the Texas Rangers, none other than Hannah Wing. Thank you for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to chat with you. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yes, it is. And I am just like in awe sitting next to you because you're a
thank
fashionista. You have a really cool background in broadcasting, University of Southern California?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, so a Cali girl turned Texan, such a cool story to share. And I just want to start with you, just to kick things off on this podcast. Tell us a little bit about how you grew up, your background, and kind of, I know it's a loaded question, but like how you got to where you are today.
Absolutely. So originally born and raised in Southern California in Orange County. My parents are still there. A ton of my friends are still out there. So always loved going back and being by the beach, but was born and raised there. I was a dancer my whole life, which I think translated a lot into what I'm doing now and just that comfortability in front of an audience and in front of a camera and things like that. So went on to the University of Southern California, which was truly a movie of a college experience. It was so much fun. Got my degree in broadcast and digital journalism. I was toggling between doing news and sports, and I really think that my senior year was really pivotal in that sense because I learned that I did not want to go into news, at least as of then, and I still kind of don't.
In a bit. Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so I realized that sports were definitely where my passions lied. I've always loved baseball. My grandpa played in the Phillies organization. My dad played up through college. I married a pitcher through college as well. So it just worked out that baseball was always in my family's blood. I grew up going to Angels games. My very first Angels game was actually against the Rangers. So I have a little ticket stub that my mom saved. So that was some really cool foreshadowing about 20 years down the line. So eventually graduated from USC, wanted to go more into the sports realm. So I actually got my job with the Texas Rangers about 2 to 3 months after I graduated. So I moved out to Dallas. A lot of my best friends from USC were actually from Texas. So it worked out well because their families are out here, and I had been out here quite a few times throughout college for different USC football games or to be with their families and kind of see where they grew up. And so I was always kind of a Texas girl at heart, if you will. And so it was just God's plan to bring me out here in 2018. And I'm heading into my 6th season, which is crazy. So it'll be 6 years with the Rangers in August. So Congrats. I guess this is season 6. Thank you. Yeah, it's truly flown by so fast. And I love my job, and it's really evolved and grown, as have I, throughout the past 6 seasons. And so it's been really special to open up a new ballpark and have a World Series win. And, you know, there were so many highs and lows over the past couple of seasons. So I think I'm really in the right place at the right time and just have loved my life here in Texas and the Dallas area as a whole.
Wow. First of all, there's so much that we could dive into.
I know,
and I'm so glad
very long answer.
Well, I'm so glad that we have a little bit of time to get to know you because I want to back up just a little bit to what you said about you learned very quickly you didn't want to be in the news. Listen, there's a lot of girls out there that are in the same boat that either are currently going to do like a news journalism type or like they've already made the switch of like, I'm going to do more broadcast side because listen, news is hard. I did the same thing. And I learned very quickly that I could not go up to a mom that just lost a child and shove a mic in her face and say, now tell me, how does that make you feel? You know? So that's so relatable. Talk about your experience through college there and like the decisions you made in college, because like, listen, I that's so relatable to me. I changed my major so many times. So I'm sure there's a lot of girls out there too.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, freshman year, I was a communications major. I actually transferred to USC from Loyola Marymount University my sophomore year. So starting at USC, you kind of had to declare what your major would be, especially if it was in broadcast, because it's a 3-year program technically. So it kind of was now or never essentially at that time. And so all of my classes were pretty much news or sports. And I think that the news classes were so beneficial when it came to writing and making sure that, I write every day scripts and podcast outlines and copy and all these different things. And so I think having that writing background was super helpful. But obviously USC is not in Beverly Hills. And so a lot of the assignments that I would get sent out on at USC were typically really challenging things and in local neighborhoods close by to the campus where things were happening that I hope that no one ever has to go through. And so that was really challenging for me. And I think that's when I really realized, okay, I really don't envision myself doing this every day. And also, I think something that a lot of people don't think about when it comes to broadcast is the local news route of hopping around. Traditionally, they're 2-year deals. And so I really wanted to try and find a way where I could potentially take a different route. And so I'm very thankful that the Rangers took a chance on me and gave me the chance that I have now, that I've turned into the role that I'm currently thriving in. And I love it. And it's a really interesting mix of still hosting in that on-air capacity of what my traditional college experience and training was, but then also so many things on the marketing side, which I've really grown and evolved with since I started about 6 years ago. And so previously I knew nothing about podcasting or influencer marketing or anything. And I kind of just picked it up and am very thankful for the Rangers for giving me that opportunity.
Oh, definitely. And that kind of goes back to your first answer when you're talking about across the 6 years, you've had highs and lows, and that's relatable too to any person out there that has any job for any amount of time. You experience it all. But one thing that sticks out to me for you is when you mentioned building a new stadium and all of that, that was right around COVID. It was like the stadium's open and the world is closed, So for you, you had like the best. You could have sat around and said, this sucks, and it gone the negative way, but instead you chose to cowgirl up and you chose the positive route. And if there was not an opportunity before, you made the opportunity to be the podcaster. So talk about that too, like the mental aspect of doing all the things that you do and creating the opportunities that you've been able to create through the Rangers.
Yeah, absolutely. So I credit a lot of it to Travis Dillon, who's our senior VP of marketing. So for example, for the podcast, he was the first one that said, I would like to consider you as a co-host for my former show, Straight Up Texas podcast. So the first season I was co-hosting, it was with Jared Sandler, who is on our broadcast team, and he's wonderful and like a big brother to me. So that was kind of my first taste of hosting a podcast. The previous season, it was more just playing into our Straight Up Texas campaign. And so I was doing everything behind the scenes of figuring out how to start a podcast. And so I think from a mentality side for the podcast and for influencer marketing, a lot of it was just kind of, no pun intended, but winging it and learning from it and seeing what happens, because there are so many different ways to do it. And I think the digital world, especially in social media, is just evolving and growing so much, especially in sports and kind of where things are trending. And so from a mentality standpoint, I think it was just kind of letting go of the traditional ideas of what I thought my career would turn into and just kind of being open to new things that have ultimately led me to what I'm doing now. And I'm so grateful for that.
And you're doing it amazingly.
Thank you.
You're fun to follow because you're just yourself, whether you're on the camera or not. And I respect that so much because there's a lot of people out there that do it differently. And I really, really appreciate that.
Thank you.
And then one thing with that, is whenever you started 6 years ago, there were influencers, but it was not what it is today.
Oh my gosh.
There was podcasting, but it was not what it is today. So talk about like the best advice that you could give yourself 6 years ago. Had you have known what you've learned now, maybe go back and give yourself some advice or share memories of like, yeah, this was a humble memory. I learned that you had to take the lens cap off the camera. I don't know, something. What's a story that you have?
Oh man, I think, probably early on would be, I guess, speaking back to my college self, I would say take a marketing class just to at least have like general understandings of things, because when the social media team transitioned to the marketing side, I felt like there were so many decks I was going through and things that people were talking about, all of these marketing terms. And I was like, what does that even mean? Google. And so exactly. So I think I would tell college Hannah to not stress out so much because you'd get a job and figure it out. But I think taking those marketing classes would have been really beneficial, even if it was just something basic. And then I think as far as honestly advice I would have given myself in year one would be to start working with a talent coach. Ooh. So I have a talent coach that I work with. She's incredible. She's helped me grow and evolve so much. And I started working with her, I believe it was in 2021. So I wish I would have told little Hannah, baby Hannah in 2018 to start working with a talent coach earlier on with my time at the Rangers, just because she's really helped sharpen and hone my interviewing skills specifically for sports, where I think a lot of my background was traditional news and anchoring and things like that from college. And so I think she's helped me tremendously in so many ways. And I think that would definitely be my first piece of advice. And then I also think on the influencer side, that I should have started taking my own social media a little bit more seriously earlier on with the team. I actually knew nothing about influencer marketing like we just talked about. I think I followed maybe 1 or 2 people in the Dallas area at the time. And again, like you mentioned, everything has evolved so much. And so I think that I would have taken the time to put more energy into my own social media as that was kind of building up when I first started. But that's ultimately how I learned everything was by doing little brand affiliate deals to learn about influencer marketing and agreements and communication and things like that. So I think maybe taking that a little bit more seriously on my own page earlier on, because now it's turned into so many incredible brand deals and opportunities.
Oh yeah, that's such solid advice, you guys, because I mean, truly, I remember being in your exact same spot. I don't know how many, probably around the same time in college. And just being like, what in the world is all of this? And luckily, I don't want to say I got smart, but for myself, I got smart and figured out really quickly that I didn't want to do like the whole news journalism and just kind of went the marketing and communications route. And so most people would think like, oh, PR, but like just like you've done at the Rangers, it doesn't matter where you're at. There's going to be a job for you. It's just how you work it. And then too, it feels so vain getting social media for yourself, having someone take pictures of you. All the stuff. But at the end of the day, like that's how you market yourself.
Exactly.
And then that's how you bring value to your brand and, so on and so forth. So I love that. I also want to talk like family for a little bit because before we talk about the Rangers and the partnership, I've loved getting to know you. So yeah, I can't help but go back to what you said about your grandpa and your dad. That's so cool. I'm so glad you brought that up, by the way, because I looked you up on an article and I was like, what? I have so many questions. That is so cool. And a lot of people don't realize how tall you are too.
Yes, I get that all the time. People at the ballpark, because usually I'm on camera by myself. So it's just like my camera guy and myself. So people don't really see me next to people that often.
Yeah.
And that's the number one thing that people always say when I walk around. They're like, I had no idea how tall you were.
How tall are you?
5'11" and 3/4.
Ooh,
so not
3/4?
officially 6 foot, but I guess I always have some sort of like a heel on or something. So we can just say 6 foot. But when I was in middle school, I was always so tall, like the tallest kid in my class. And so it was when Yao Ming was really big. So everyone called me Yao Wing because I was like 2 heads taller than everyone else. And I like hated it at the time, but now I think it's so funny.
I think it's awesome. And that's the thing about middle school. You think everything in middle school that somebody picks at you about, you think is like an insecurity or whatever. Then you become adult and you're like, hey, that's what sets me apart. That's the coolest thing.
Exactly. And like, who's laughing now? I have a World Series ring and I'm living my dream. So
yeah, so wing it from there. No, I love what you said earlier, by the way, wing it. You probably say that a lot.
all the time, even though I'm technically married now, and like my last name is different, but like I'm still Hannah
What a
Wing,
weird
you know?
thing. Yeah, no. And that's fun too, to be able to follow you personally, kind of going to the influencer thing, follow you personally and get to see you and your husband. I know by the time this episode airs, I think it will be a long time by now, but when we're recording, you guys just went on a vacation.
Yes.
So fun. Tell us about it. Where'd you go?
So we went to Cabo for our 1-year wedding anniversary. It has flown by so quickly. We got married in May of 2023. So
Oh my
it just
gosh.
so worked out that the All-Star game this year is in Arlington. So we usually would have traveled probably and taken the trip during the All-Star break, but this year it's going to be so busy. So it worked out that right around our anniversary, the team was on the road. So we took some time off and went down to Cabo. We stayed at the Thompson or the Cape down there, which was a beautiful hotel. It was incredible. Like we just laid by the pool. We ended up actually seeing some friends down there because it was Memorial Day. But we just had an amazing time spending just quality time, the two of us, and trying to not check emails and things like that. But it was really great just being by the beach, my happy place, and laying by the pool and just relaxing and just spending time together.
And it's so cool since you're from California. That was probably like a little piece of home, right? Like the little, no, I love that. And I will say you're doing an awesome job at the influencing thing because
Thank
I'm
you.
also going to the beach, nowhere near as cool as Cabo. We're going to Galveston. So
Hey, still fun.
but I noticed your little slides, your dupe slides that you
Yes.
linked from Amazon. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay, I have to wear this to the
Oh,
beach.
I
So-
love those. Those are my favorite shoes. I'm so excited to wear them all summer. They're
Yeah.
the Hermes dupes. I was like, I'm not going to
Okay.
spend $800 on sandals, but I'll find ones that look like it. So
Exactly. No, exactly. I love it. And then kind of twofold for this. So whenever you are trying to plan outfits for your, really for anything, for an appearance, for your job day to day, is there any fashion advice that you have for girls out there that I don't know, they're trying to piece together outfits or like build. I know like right now it's a big thing on TikTok to like get like, I don't know, I forget the number, like 13 natural items, and then you can like rebuild and rewear and rework to make like 75 outfits. I don't know.
Ooh, that's fun.
Something like that. So what's your best fashion advice when you're getting ready for work and then also personal, since you are such a fashionista?
Thank you.
Yes.
So, gosh, I mean, my husband always makes jokes that our closet's overflowing and it's my fault because I just have so many things in it. But I would say definitely for those that want to get into the sports industry or being on camera for your careers, I would definitely say get a membership with, I mean, I partner with Fashion Pass and they're amazing.
Okay.
With a Fashion Pass or Rent the Runway, because especially in baseball, I mean, we have 81 home games plus exhibitions plus potential postseason games. And so that's a lot of games to dress for. And I try not to wear the same thing twice because sometimes we have season ticket holders that come to every single game. And I don't want them to be like, oh, you wore that yesterday, because they would tell you. So I think definitely getting some sort of a membership where you can always kind of funnel in some new things. That's definitely a life hack, both on and off the field. And I also love wearing cowboy boots. I think even though I am from Southern California, I think it's a really fun, kind of my little favorite game day accessory, if you will. I love planning outfits around them and things like that. So I would say cowboy boots and some sort of like a fashion rental company to always have new things in. And then Amazon Prime is also my lifesaver. So I made a little storefront finally so I can share all my favorite stuff. But yeah, Amazon is my best friend, especially that Prime shipping. It's a game changer.
It really is. And as we're speaking right now, I have a wedding this weekend that I haven't even shopped for.
Oh, you'll be fine.
So yeah, Amazon, it's going to be the total opportunity there. So it's been so good getting to know you. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, you guys, we're going to get to talk about Justin and the Texas Rangers and everything we've partnered up to do. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hey guys, it's All-Star Week. And I don't know if you've heard, and if you haven't, I'm excited to tell you that Justin has partnered with the Texas Rangers, the 2023 World Champions, to become the official boot of the Texas Rangers. We've got a lot going on for All-Star Week, but the next time you're here for a home Rangers game, be sure to stop by the Big Red Justin Boots to enter for your chance to win a free pair of Justin boots. And if you aren't able to make it to the ballpark, that's okay. We'd still like to save you some money. Please visit our website, www.justinboots.com, and enter code KYBU15 at checkout to receive 15% off your next purchase. That's code KYBU15. Hey y'all, thanks for listening. We're still in studio with the one and only Hannah Wing from the Texas Rangers. You know her, you love her. We've now gotten to know even more about her. So now it's time to kind of transition just a little bit into the Texas Rangers and what you actually get to do in our partnership here. So I don't know if you guys have heard. If you haven't heard, you're living under a rock. You need to get out more. Justin is now the official boot of the Texas Rangers, and that has been something that is really cool. It's a natural and organic partnership. And so tell us from your perspective what it's like to have a brand support you guys to become, I know you have it all the time, official whatever, official beverage, but for being the official boot, also being a Texas company, just tell us about your perspective there.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of fun. I know that the Rangers and Justin have partnered since 2020, and there's so many different ways. Obviously my podcast, which I'm sure we'll dive into,
yes.
Rangers Deep in the Heart, presented by Justin. One of my favorite in-game activations that we have is the Justin Give Him the Boot. So it's whenever they quite literally boot the opposing pitcher, this graphic comes on and everyone just dies laughing. And I think it's my husband's favorite too, but I look forward to it every single time it happens. And it's also a chance for Rangers fans to win free Justin boots. So who doesn't need more boots in Texas? And so I love the way that it's two very Texas brands coming together. And it's been fun watching how the partnership has evolved. And I know that now there are actual life-size massive Justin boots around the ballpark for photo ops and things like that, which is really fun. So yeah, it's been awesome to work with you guys on the podcast side. And I know the team also loves the partnership as a whole.
Yeah, that was such a good answer. I love that. And those boots are fun. We've just carted one around for all of our events, and it's been crazy all the amount of things that people say about them. Like, oh, can I get in there? Has anyone tried to get in there? Who the most recent one we got was, whose foot does this fit?
Oh,
and we were
gosh.
Shaq is the biggest one we know, and even he isn't that big. Come on, people. It's just fun. It's a good talking point for sure. So I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah. And then from your perspective with the baseball, I'm going to be honest. I did not grow up in a baseball family. My husband is the baseball guy. He, I think the highest he ever got was coaching in college or whatever, but loves baseball, loves it. And so for me though, being like a dad, a girl dad, he would always turn the baseball on, and the sisters and I, we would always fall asleep. So that was like our
and that was before the pitch clock too. So the games are like 4 or 5 hours long. So I don't blame you. It happens.
Yeah. No, but with that, I have become a Texas Rangers fan specifically through working here at Justin. I started almost 2 years ago, and seeing the different opportunities that are available. It's really cool. But then from I guess to get some insider's perspective for you, let's pretend we're there at a normal game day, home game. You obviously have to be there way earlier than everyone else. Talk to us through your schedule. What's it like at a Rangers game from your perspective? Because the fans, we all know our perspective. It's awesome. We get all the things. But for you, what do you do start to finish?
Great question. So I actually get asked this all the time, and every day is a little bit different, but also follows a similar structure. So let's say it's a Wednesday, 7 o'clock game. So night game, I'll usually get in around 10:30, sometimes 11.
Wow.
During the day, I'll make sure I am working on podcast outlines or just at my desk doing influencer emails. I'm essentially a one-woman agency on the influencer side, so handling everything for our campaigns for that homestand, making sure everything's all set for partners that are coming that night to the game. Again, just getting everything for our college brand ambassadors together. Just a lot of desk work and things like that. Sometimes we'll do podcast shoots. I usually have one podcast shoot per homestand for the most part, because that's obviously when the players are home.
Yeah.
So usually knocking out a podcast recording. I'll also I have a segment on Rangers Insider now where it's a player sit down, which is really fun.
Wow.
So I'll also record that during batting practice. So I'm usually at my desk kind of doing different odds and ends, meetings, things like that, usually from 10 up until around 2, and that's when I get ready. So people think that I have a full hair and makeup team, but I actually do it at my desk. And all the guys that work with me look around like I'm crazy because I'm curling my hair and I have dry shampoo and
all the
just
hair.
doing full glam at my desk. So I'll do that, and then I'll go change, because usually I don't wear to the office what I'm wearing to the game that night, so I can be a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah.
And then around 2:45, sometimes 3:30, clubhouse will open up, so I'll go down to the Rangers clubhouse. If I have to schedule any interviews with players, I'll try and do that then. Again, just keeping up that rapport with them, checking and seeing how they're doing. If I have any actual baseball questions or things from them that I need to ask, I'll go ahead and do that. And then Rangers manager Bruce Bochy does his media availability. So if I have a question for him for a podcast episode or an insider interview, I'll talk to him then. Then it's batting practice, and then at 5:15 usually we'll do our pre-production meeting. So I'll go up to our control room, which is so cool and looks like NASA's headquarters, all these buttons and screens. And we'll do our pre-production meeting. So it's myself, obviously the in-game host, our camera crew, our ballpark entertainment team, graphics, everyone that's a part of our game day productions in that meeting. So we'll run through and have a rundown of what's happening during that night's game. We go inning by inning, pre-game, everything we need to go through to make sure that we're all set. I'll go up for what we like to call family dinner. So we obviously all spend so much time together, and I feel like I see my coworkers sometimes more than my own husband during season. And
yes.
so we all have family dinner. So it's a group of 10 of us that'll go up there every night and have dinner together. And sometimes it gets pretty unhinged, but it's a really funny group, and we're always laughing and having a good time. And sometimes I'll force us to go around and do peaks and valleys of our days and talk about it.
I love that.
We get really deep sometimes. And then my pregame hits usually start around 6:30. So I'll go down on the field for that. And then now we have a new area called the holster that we have up above the batter's eye. So that's where I do a majority of my in-game hits. And then sometimes I'm done around the 4th or 5th inning and I'll go back home. Sometimes I'll stay the full game depending on what's happening. And then some games I'll stay even after the game is over if we have an influencer event or an influencer suite or something like that happening at that time too.
That I'm so glad you kind of shed light a little bit on your schedule, because a lot of people think, we were talking about this off camera, a lot of people think that, oh, you're just the pretty face. You come in with the glam squad.
Yeah.
They get you ready, you go on. And they don't even see the hours and hours and hours of preparation that you took just to learn the stats that you have. That's one thing I want to really compliment you on is
thank you.
Every interview I've seen of you, whether that be in the game, during the game, in host or in-house, and then even on your podcast, you can just tell that the questions that you have for these guys are very formulated, very prepared.
Thank you.
And that is you probably gain a lot of respect from them as well. Because
I hope so.
I'm sure so. Knowing that their I don't know, how fast they could throw the ball, or like all their stats that you know that you're so good at. That probably helps. But yeah, you spend so much time doing that, and I'm so glad that you told us a little bit about your story. And I can't help but ask you, I know, I'm sure all of your friends have already like beat it like a dead horse on the national championship win, world championship win.
Oh my gosh.
But because this is my first time talking with you, I can't help but bring it up on the podcast. Were you there at the game?
Yes. So I was fortunate enough to do all of the road trips for the postseason. So that was a ton of fun. Tampa, Baltimore, Houston, Arizona. Like we were all there for all the games, which was so fun. So they actually flew out the Rangers front office for the games in Arizona, which was really cool too. So I was there in a working capacity, but I'm really grateful that everyone else was able to be there as well to experience it and celebrate.
That is so cool, Hannah. So what was like going through your mind the second you knew that they won? I'm sure you had all kinds of emotions.
Oh my gosh.
They're your coworkers essentially, but you have so much respect for them. You know them. You've obviously studied them for so long. Yeah. So was it like your brothers won something cool? Was that what it was like?
You know what? It was so interesting because how it works in the postseason is if there's a potential clinch situation, no matter what the round is, you go down in the tunnel usually in like the 6th or the 7th inning. And then MLB will line everyone up and they're like, okay, this phase of people gets to go on the field first. And then these people get to go second. And so I think we were only up by 1 run at that point because it had been a fairly slow game. We were getting no hit through several innings because Zach Gallen was just on one that day and we were all stressed out. So we had a perfect road record, obviously. So we're like, it just makes sense for us to do it here. So we're all waiting in the tunnel. And I remember just watching the screens because we couldn't see the field from where we were because we were like in the actual tunnel. So I was watching the TV screen and they actually panned to my husband in the crowd of all people for about 10 seconds. And it was like the most pivotal point in the game. It was like top 8, Mitch Garver's up to bat, bases are loaded. And they pan over to Pierce, my husband, who was like freaking out. And they were like visibly, like they could tell that he was like nervous. So they were like, perfect shot. So he got more airtime than I did, which was kind of funny. So I saw that and I was thrown off. I was like, what is he doing on TV? This is nuts. So his phone obviously started blowing up. And then we ended up winning the game. It was incredible. But I remember I was in the tunnel and Lauren Gardner, who's a host and a reporter with MLB Network, who I've looked up to for years, was like 3 people in front of me. And like by that point, we knew that we had it. And so she turned around and she was like, congratulations. I just started tearing up and I was like, I can't cry. I have to go on the field and interview people. And it was really surreal. Like when she looked over at me and she was like, congratulations, like you guys did it. And I was like, the first time in franchise history, there was so much excitement. I like get chills thinking about it. And then I went on the field to get a couple player interviews. And by that point, it was like, you just grab whoever you can. Like there was no rhyme or reason. Like I found Evan Carter and Josh Young and they're 2 great guys. I was like, perfect. Like they'll give great sound bites. I'll make it short and sweet so they can celebrate. And honestly, I had all these questions in my head of what I was going to say. And I totally just blacked out. Like I don't even remember what I said or what I asked because there are so many emotions. And then their families came out. So I was trying to also help get little candid videos of them with their families. I mean, it was such a big deal for everybody. And so it was really special. And I remember Donnie Ecker, our bench coach, who's like a big brother to me, was like over on the field, kind of like squatting down, just like watching everything and like observing, taking it all in. So I gave him a massive hug. And I don't think I fully got emotional until after I got out of the clubhouse when I saw my husband, and then I just started sobbing. I was like, oh my gosh, I couldn't believe it. But being in the clubhouse after a World Series win was so special. And I mean, there's champagne everywhere. Like my eyes were burning. But it was so much fun. I mean, there's truly nothing like it. And they said, okay, you get 1 player in the clubhouse. Who do you want? And I said, Austin Hedges, who was like the team morale guy. He was the best.
Okay.
He was like drinking a beer during the interview. Like there's no one like him. He's a gem. So I was like, this is the exact person that I want because after the really rough loss against Houston in game 5, that was at home on that Friday night, he basically said to the team something along the lines of like, this will make a great 30 for 30 one day. And that was like, he really helped kind of shift the team's mentality from what I understand. And he's also just a hoot. Like he's an awesome guy and just brings great vibes. And we got him at the deadline or shortly after that. And so it just made sense that we had him, and he was just a huge morale guy and was always super animated. So I was like, that's the guy that I want. So being in that clubhouse was awesome for sure.
Oh my gosh. And yeah, since you brought that up, the whole champagne moment, like I didn't know what to expect it. Tyler, my husband, who watches it every year, knew it was coming. You knew it was coming. Everyone knew it was coming. But was it still just so cool being there and like, yeah, your eyes were burning, but just talk about that moment in particular, because I remember they were going crazy. Like they were so happy. So happy.
Yeah, it was awesome. I walked in, I think like so Bochy gave his speech, obviously.
Yes.
And that was like a private moment with the team. So like they let media in after that.
Oh, okay.
And so they started spraying champagne all over the place. And I remember I got sprayed like right in my eyes. It was unintentional. Like no one was doing it on purpose,
right.
but I couldn't see anything and I had to go interview Austin. And so I like found one of our clubhouse attendants that had like a shirt on that was cotton, because I had on some blazer dress that was like not fit for cleaning your eyes off. And I was like, do you mind if I like dab the bottom of my eye with like the under part of your shirt? And he's like, just wipe your face. I don't care. And I was like, I'm going to get makeup all over your World Series champion shirt. Like, I'm so sorry. And he's like, just do what you have to do. So really appreciate that, because it was very chaotic, but it was so much fun. And yeah, I mean, nothing really prepares you for that. I think we obviously had champagne celebrations along the way, but I think that one felt extra special for sure.
That is so cool. And I've got to ask, was it easy to wash out of your hair and stuff?
Oh no, it smelled like champagne for like weeks after. It was so gross. My husband's like, what is that? I'm like, don't worry about it. It's fine.
It's just now like fermented
yeah, it was like part of me, but it was great. I think my hair smelled like champagne for a very long time throughout that whole month, but it was a lot of fun.
You know what? That's a goal in life. If your hair can smell like champagne, you're living a life.
Exactly. I think I tagged, I was wearing a blazer dress from Fashion Pass, and I posted it and I tagged them. And then in the comment, I was like, at Fashion Pass, sorry for all the champagne returns clothes, because you have to send it back to them and they like dry clean it. So, I mean, not a bad complaint, obviously, but it was pretty fun.
So fun. So fun. And I'm glad we've gotten to have this little moment with you to talk about it. That is so cool. And before we go, I can't help but talk about your podcast.
Yes.
It's so cool.
Thank you.
The guests that you get to have on are interesting. And one thing that I got to see is like, when you brought, I forget who it was, but you brought his wife on.
Yes.
And I remember thinking like, that is so cool to get to have, they don't get to do a lot of things together as a couple. And so you're giving them an opportunity to not only get to be themselves, and to a certain point, but like to be themselves and bring in their personal aspects. So what's it like for you then hosting a podcast that just like gets to share their stories? What's that like for you?
It's amazing. I mean, I've truly never done anything like this before. I've never actually had my own podcast. And so when I was kind of envisioning what I wanted it to be, I was trying to think of something that's different, because there are so many great Rangers podcasts out there. And I was trying to think of a way to differentiate it just a little bit. And so I thought it'd be really fun to have the wives come on, because I think a lot of people don't understand the behind the scenes aspects of being a baseball family. And so it's really fun for them to obviously open up about how they met and their relationship stories. And, we play the newlywed game so people can get to know both of them as people off the field as well. So my biggest goal for Rangers Deep in the Heart, presented by Justin, is to obviously give them a platform if they have a foundation they want to talk about, or if there's something that is on their heart that they've never been asked about before, that's the place where they can do it. And so my number one goal after every recording is for them to always say, oh, wow, that was so much fun, or I've never been asked that before. So trying to really find those personal and fun stories. And I think every episode's really had a theme so far. The Jankowskis, for example, was a big theme on family, because we talked about the adoption of their son Jet. We all were crying on the first episode, and they were so open, and they're just amazing people. And then Josh Young, and talking about his faith and how the difficult time he's going through now with his injury has really tested that, and how he leans on his faith. And
I think that's the one I watched. Yes.
And then Cody Bradford and his wife Maddie. I mean, Cody grew up in Aledo, so not too far from the ballpark, and grew up a Rangers fan, so the hometown kid. And my next episode will be with Josh and Claire Smith, which was a total blast as well, and they're so sweet. So it's just fun to kind of get the players in a different mindset and different location. And of course, we talk a little bit of baseball at the top of the show and current events and things that are happening, but I really just want our fan base to get to know them, and their wives, of course, too, off the field.
Well, if you're listening to this podcast, go on over after this and listen to Rangers Deep in the Heart, hosted by Hannah.
Yes.
Because truly, that's like a perspective. It was great for my husband and I both to watch it together, because he's a baseball fan. He gets it. He'll watch anything baseball. But for me, I was like, this is the wife's perspective. And a lot of people don't get to see how hard it is, just like you mentioned. And I also think too that Josh particularly like opened up once his wife was there. He was able to be like, okay, yeah, I can talk normal, like I'm talking to a friend, and not like there's a million cameras around me or whatever. So well done.
Thank you.
I love everything that you're doing with it.
Thank you so much.
It's going to continue to thrive. And before we go, there's one question that I always ask the podcast guests, and it's, what is the best piece of advice that you'd like to give to anyone that wants to enter into your career? So for you specifically, what is the best piece of advice that you could give to anyone that is getting ready to go on? I know we've covered it through college, right after college, but maybe even wanting to take the next step. I know you've done so good already with the life coach and all that, but what's your other tidbit? What would you like to tell them?
I would say, and this is something I actually tell everyone, is to be willing to move anywhere. I think there's so many people that want to do a specific job for their hometown team and they don't open their minds to anything else. And I think when I was applying to jobs all over the country, I was like, well, I guess we'll see what state I end up in. And thank goodness it was here in Texas. But I think especially in the world of sports, it's definitely big because there are so many teams and networks and opportunities, but I think it's also fairly small as well once you get in. So obviously not burning any bridges, but being open to moving truly anywhere and taking any opportunity. I always tell people that there's nothing wrong with ever working in the minor leagues because that's a really great way to learn so many different skill sets and things like that. So I think not being set on one specific team or even sports, what am I trying to say? Network or region or area, if you will, because I think there are so many great opportunities out there, especially in the digital space now. And now we have the UFL and we have indoor football and we have rugby and there's all these things, especially in the DFW area. So just being kind of open-minded to whatever it takes to get your foot in the door instead of wanting to do one specific thing for your favorite team.
Well said. I love that piece of advice. That's so good. And that could kind of translate to really not necessarily any industry, but any job you have of like, don't be complacent. Don't just want to stay. Get ready to move and grow. And so I love that. I love that so much. And we always got to give the guests a shout out on their social media. Tell us where we can find you on all the socials, website, whatever.
Awesome. So I'm probably the most active on Instagram. So my Instagram is @HannahWing. My Twitter is @Hannah_Wing. And then you can find my podcast, Rangers Deep in the Heart, at rangers.com/podcast. And it's also on the Rangers YouTube channel as well.
Okay, very good. And there you have it, you guys. That's where you can listen to the podcast. That's where you can see Hannah. If you have any more follow-up questions that I didn't get to ask her that you want to know, slide into her DMs, ask her questions, whatever you got to do.
I'm always checking, so I'll get back to you.
That's so good. And that's what I love about you. Truly, like, you do seem like you're the real girl behind the video or whatever. So
thank you.
I love that. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you for having me. That was so fun.
Of course. And I wish you the best of luck as we go into as the season, unfolds. We'll see what happens, and hopefully we'll get to have you back on the podcast in the end.
I would love that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on Kick Your Boots Up. I'm your host, Taylor McAdams, and we can't wait to share the next story of the West. Until then, feel free to like, subscribe, and leave us a review. Follow us on social media @JustinBoots to keep up with our next episode, and we'll see you the next time you kick your boots up.